Hello friends, welcome to Wisdom Jobs. My name is Syed Guri Muhammad and I am a history faculty. Right, today our topic is factors responsible for the colonial and imperial power of British in India. First of all, let us know the definitions of colonialism and imperialism. Then we'll move ahead the differences between colonialism and imperialism. First of all, colonialism. Colonialism's definition is exploitation by a stronger country of weaker one. Exploitation of a stronger country or domination of a stronger country in the trade and commerce through the policy of exploitation. The use of the weaker country's resources to strengthen and enrich the stronger country. See the thing. The use of weaker country's resources to strengthen the stronger country. The way Britishers started looting the wealth in the form of raw materials from India to England, causing drain of wealth. And this drain of wealth theory was written by the grand old man of India, Dadabhai Naoroji. First of all, let us discuss what factors made responsible through which platform or through which policy British adapted or traveled to make a super paramount power and to build a colonial and imperial power in India. Let us discuss the factors responsible for that. First, British created few policies for that. So the meaning of colonialism is exploitation by a strong country of weaker one. The use of the weaker country's resources for the development, for the growth and the development, for strengthening and enriching the stronger country. This is the definition of colonialism. Next, number 2, imperialism. Imperialism is something like a policy of extending one country's rule over another country. A policy of extending one country's rule over another country. Now, let us see the differences between colonialism and imperialism. Colonialism is related to trade and commerce. Very, very important. Have a look here. Colonialism is related to trade and commerce. Means this is completely the economic aspect. So British started looting the wealth of India while performing the trading activities with India, started looting the wealth in the form of raw materials. That is colonialism. It is purely associated with economic aspects, while imperialism not only this economic aspect but socio-religious, mainly political and territorial domination over another country. So colonialism it's exclusively associated with the economy, but coming to the imperialism, not only the economy but the domination of a country, a stronger country over a weaker country, social, religious, political, socio-religious and political domination, and one more thing, territorial domination of a stronger country over a weaker country. So this colonialism is associated with the economic aspect, while this imperialism including economic, socio-religious and political aspects. So and territorial aspects, political and territorial aspects. So English East India Company came as a trading company, as an ordinary trading company. Later it became a powerful territorial company, territorial institution. Let us discuss the factors responsible for the colonial and imperial power of British in India. First thing is ring fence policy of British. Ring fence policy of British. British created a policy called ring fence. Let us discuss the policy of ring fence. And it was introduced by Warren Hastings. Introduced by Warren Hastings in India, the first Governor General of Bengal. The first Governor General of Bengal. Warren Hastings introduced ring fence policy to make English East India Company and to make a British sovereign, suzerain, imperial and colonial power in India. And what the policy says, so what is the inner theme of this policy? The thing is, simply the policy tells an universal truth that enemy is a friend. What is it? Enemy's enemy is friend. दुश्मन का दुश्मन क्या होता है? दोस्त बन जाता है. ऐसा दुश्मन का दुश्मन को दोस्त बना लिया अंग्रेज और बना के, और दुश्मन के किंगडम के चारों ओर एक फेंस बनाया. एक फेंस, इस फेंसिंग से ब्रिटिश वालों ने इंडिया को कॉन्क्वेस्ट करना शुरू कर लिया. द थिंग इज रिंग फेंस पॉलिसी simply based on enemy is friend. What is it? Enemy, he becomes a friend through this policy. And who is the enemy of British in India? Mainly the Mysore state Sultan Hyder Ali and Tipu, both father and son. They were the enemies of, or big foes and formidable enemies of British in India, in Mysore state. And British enemies enemy, Marathas here, Marathas and here Nizam. So these both are the rival states to the Mysore state. So Mysore states rival states are Marathas and Nizams. And now this British went through a formula called enemy's enemy will become a friend. Now the enemy of British was Mysore, and Mysore enemy were Marathas and Nizams. And British created a friendly alliance with Marathas and Nizams to defeat and to dethrone the Nawab's rule in Mysore and to give Mysore to the original Wadayar dynasty, right? So here what happened? The formidable enemy of British, Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, were defeated in the hands of British, right? And Marathas, Nizams plus British, they formed a confederation called tripartite confederation. In the hands of this confederation, this Mysore Sultanate defeated brutally, outrightly, right? So through the enemies Marathas and Nizams, Warren Hastings started making a fence around rival state Mysore, and he made a strong fence to close the chapter of Mysore state. Here he emerged victorious. Simple thing is ring fence policy, and this is in the form of a ring, and ring had a beautiful fence, and this policy was introduced by Warren Hastings, right? So the borders of this Mysore states were besieged by the British forces, Maratha forces and Nizam forces to conquer, right? So, and these borders of Mysore states were strongly fenced by British with the help of Marathas and Nizams, right? And this is called a ring fence policy. And now the second policy is subsidiary alliance. Subsidiary alliance was introduced by Lord Wellesley in the year 1798. Let us discuss how this policy created British colonial and imperial power in India. Subsidiary alliance. Mainly, Lord Wellesley created this policy to become an economic power, a great economic power. As we know, without economic empowerment, the status of political empowerment is zero, is it? So, British had a look over the strong economy, to become an economic empowered state. For that, British created this policy, subsidiary alliance. According to this policy, an Indian state, native Indian state, shall receive subsidiary forces. What is it? Forces. Subsidiary forces are subsidiary army given by Britishers. What situation and what circumstances tempted this policy? The thing is, at the time there were so many rival states and there was a political disunity in India, in the modern history of India. So there was no political unity, and many rival states, neighbor states were the rival states, and in order to protect from the attacks of the neighbor states, British started planning a strategy called subsidiary alliance. So here, according to this policy, the first provision of this policy is, once signed over the subsidiary alliance or the treaty of subsidiary alliance, the native state becomes signatory state. What is it? Signatory state. Once signed over a treaty of subsidiary alliance, the Indian state becomes signatory state. And now the protection of signatory state came under the control. The protection of signatory state came under the control of Britishers as per this policy. The protection. So whose responsibility was the protection of signatory state as per the subsidiary alliance? The responsibility was subsidiary forces. So British forces stationed at the signatory state, around the signatory state, for the exclusive protection of, protection of signatory state exclusively. Next, number 2, the entire cost of maintenance of the British forces shall be paid by the signatory state. Entire cost of subsidiary forces or British forces shall be paid by the signatory state. See, when the subsidiary forces giving protection to the signatory state, and signatory state must pay the entire cost of maintenance of the subsidiary forces. See, this is how British escaped from the burden of their own army. putting on the shoulders of the signatory state. This is how British became economic power of India, superpower of India, and this was the strategy of British. See how an intelligent step, how British cleverly managed to escape from this, the burden of the cost of maintenance of her own military in India, putting on the shoulders of the signatory state. And next, third point is the entire cost of maintenance shall be paid in the form of liquid cash, or the equal revenue generating land shall be ceded to the British, either in cash or in the form of land, or equal revenue generating land shall be ceded to the British. When the signatory state is unable to pay the entire cost of maintenance in the form of cash, then in such case signatory state can cede few districts to the British. As a part of it, Nizam, when he was unable to pay this entire cost of maintenance of subsidiary forces, he ceded so many districts from Rayalaseema and one district from Karnataka, right? And what were they? Anantapur, Kadapa, Kurnool, and finally Bellary from Karnataka, and these three from present Andhra Pradesh, Rayalaseema. So this is how British, from one side they are becoming economical power of India, superpower of India. From other side they received so many revenue districts, right? Both British became a territorial and economic power of India through this policy. And next provision of this subsidiary alliance is an officer appointed by the British called British residents, and he will station in the capital city of the signatory state to maintain the entire subsidiary force. And the major problem of this British resident, an officer was appointed by the British called British resident. The major problem of this British resident, he always try to involve or interfere in the internal affairs and the religious affairs, in the internal affairs, in the administrative affairs of the signatory state. That was the major problem. This is how always trying to involve in the internal affairs, administrative affairs of the signatory state was the major problem to the signatory state, right? And the fifth provision is very, very important. Without the permission of British resident, no foreigner or no envoy from the neighbor state can visit the signatory state. So during the time of diplomatic, cordial and friendly relations with the neighbor states or with the foreign states, the signatory state must take the permission from the British. These all are the provisions of subsidiary alliance. This is how British took the entire economic power into her hand, at the same time the territorial power, even the foreign affairs and the territorial affairs and the economic affairs all came under the control of British. So this is the second thing. Next, third is doctrine of lapse. Doctrine of lapse. Doctrine of lapse is a policy introduced by Dalhousie in the year 1848. Introduced by Lord Dalhousie Lord Dalhousie was the Governor General. The main motto of this policy: if there is no natural legal born heir to a state, then such state comes under the control of British. So British empowered to annex such state. Right, very, very important. What was the case? The case is, if there is no natural legal born heir to the state, and the king, he doesn't have a natural legal born heir, or he adopted from somewhere. At the time, the British empowered to annex such state. Right, that was the case. And if there is no natural legal born heir to the state, to any state of India, such state comes under the control of British, according to Doctrine of Lapse of an imperialist Dalhousie. According to this, in the year 1848, Satara, and next 1849, Sambalpur, Satara from Maharashtra, Sambalpur from Odisha, and next in the same year, Jaithpur from Bundelkhand, next in the year 1850, Bhagat, next 1852, Udaipur, and next 1853, Jhansi, 1854, Nagpur, this all came under the control of British on the pretext of Doctrine of Lapse. See how intelligent the British tackled to create India into her control. Last thing is divide and rule. This is also the beautiful policy. When the nationalistic feelings increasing in the minds of the Indians, mainly from Bengal. Why? Bengal is a place of both Muslims and Hindus. Majority Hindus are residing in Bengal during the time of British Raj, and this Bengal is a major province in India, like Bihar, Odisha and Assam. These three are under Bengal province. So Bengal is with Bihar, Odisha and Assam. So that was the major province, and here to decrease the nationalistic feelings and to avoid the Hindu-Muslim brotherhood, which is a very big threat and the most dangerous situation to British, and it is a main hurdle to British to make her suzerain power in India, to make her imperial power in India. Now what happened? British started making a plan in order to avoid the Hindu-Muslims brotherhood and to divide Bengal into two parts, East Bengal and West Bengal. East Bengal is the Dhaka is capital, West Bengal, Calcutta is capital. Calcutta is the capital, right? And now British started the main motto of this, the partition of Bengal in the year 1905 by Lord Curzon, to divide India into two religions, Hindus and Muslims. When India had divided into two religions, Hindu and Muslims, then there will be the scope of the rise of nationalistic feelings in the minds of the people shall be reduced. So that was the main motto, and that was the prime motto of, that was the strategy and plan of British to divide India mainly Bengal, into two religions, and hence they will receive and they will possess good result in order to continue their colonial and imperial power. So these four are the main factors responsible for the growth and the development of English East India Company as well as the British Raj India. Right. Thank you friends. Subscribe our channel before watching this video, and one more thing, do like, share and comment. Thank you once again.